Hello and welcome to Loving Me, Myself, and Life with me, Jody Misiak. Today, I want to share with you this beautiful aha moment I had after talking to a friend when they mentioned to me after we were just sharing about healing and things like that and what they're going through, that they didn't want to pay like $200 to talk to a therapist every week. And then it got me really thinking that healing doesn't have to cost hundreds of dollars, or your personal discovery, your journey, your personal discovery does not have to cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars. That if money is an issue, like you need to eat and you need to have a roof, and if all those things aren't being paid for, then yeah, a therapist is not going to be a good idea. Or if you're barely making ends meet, forking out a lot of money. Now, I'll talk more about that later because there are other different options of therapists that don't cost $200. But it got me thinking. There are so many ways to do personal development that don't cost anything. You heard that right. It's free, or very, 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 very close to free. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about the things that I thought about that are free. And then I'm actually going to create a series of this over the next few weeks. I'll be talking more about this, I feel. Like we'll see how this episode goes, and we'll just keep going and see how it flows and how it all works out. So the things that are like, ooh, what is free that can help you, heal through things or really discover who you truly are and help you really connect with yourself? Well, here's a few that I wrote down. Meditation, walking, moving your body, like any way, shape, or form that makes you feel good or that you like to do. Journaling. And if you've listened to any of my episodes before on this podcast or the one I did with my husband, journaling is such a huge, big component that can help you in so many beautiful ways. And you can get a journal for pretty reasonable price. And you can make it look beautiful and make it feel like your own. Or you can even do an app if you like to do things on the computer or on your phone or tablet, whatever works for you, really. Reading. So even going to the public library. And I have like a whole huge collection of my own. Like I just love books. And I bought a lot for when I became an empowerment coach. There's a lot of reading involved in that as well. And that's where I really actually just took really a deep dive into the world of personal development, self-help books. I was reading it before then, but I really went deep after. And yoga, huge. I don't even need to share. I don't feel like I need to share too much about that because I share about it all the time, that how much I love yoga and how helpful. Like it's a mind, body, spirit thing. Like it's not just one thing. It is, and like I said on another thing, it's an actual yoga means like you at your, like it is pretty much love, taking care of yourself. Different episode describing that a long time ago. But tapping. So emotional freedom technique, or EFT, ways to really connect and get through emotions. And then it's listening to things. TED Talks, podcasts, like you're right here, right now, listening to this one. So yay, you. And podcasts, videos, like so many things, audiobooks, anything that's motivational, inspirational, self-help, personal development. So there are so many ways that you can do things. Sorry, I'm wrapped up in my cord with my mic as I move. So there are so many things that you can do for free. Now, that being said, let's go back to the therapist thing for just a second. Because like I told my friend, there are definitely ways to not pay so much. Like there's so many things out there now, especially after the world changed and we all went through an emotional time in our lives. Like we all felt things and are still recovering at different layers. Like I run into people all the time where I can see it and I can feel it. And the aftermath has run deep from, the lockdowns and all the fun things or not so fun things, really. I try to make light of the situation because I can't go back and I can't change anything and all that. So I try to keep it light and fluffy because it wasn't light and fluffy, if we're being honest, right? So I try to keep it light and fluffy, but we all felt things in some shape or form. Thankfully, I was moving across the country, so I had other things to think about. However, I still wasn't safeguarded from it. I felt it later. I felt the aftermath of it all later. Anyways, so there are different ways and tools. Like if you really do need a therapist, like this is not me saying don't go to a therapist. This was me talking to somebody where they're like, I don't have that kind of money right now. And I was like, ooh, so problem solving mode in my brain was like, what else can be done? And I was like, there's so much. Because I thought about my own personal being. I was like, what have I done? And then I just came up with a whole pile of free things. Like, so even yoga. Actually, I want to talk about this later in a different series, I think, like in a different episode. I want to go detailed into things. I want to really share just about the freeness, therapists, and then the other side of things as well. So anyways, so I'm not saying don't go to a therapist. This was me finding free ways to help support in free ways. Because there is so many free ways, like so many free resources out there. And that includes like therapists. You can find people that you can find support in so many different ways. And you just have to search for it. I unfortunately don't have any links that I can put in right away. But if you go looking, they're out there. Because I would share links, but I'm listened to in a lot of countries. So I don't want to like link to one, like I don't want to play favorites. So it's just looking online and finding things. I also know personally, when I was going through a hard time in my life, I went to a therapist that was attached to my church. And because it was actually like, I believe it was $30. Now that was like probably almost 20 years ago now, maybe not quite 20, but it was a while ago. But all I'm saying is, if you need support, go looking for it. It doesn't have to be a lot. And there's different things, and I'm sure there's different supports and programs out there. So go and search. However, if you're hitting the brick wall or that idea that you can't get support without forking over $200 plus or whatever you think, that's just sharing what my friend said. I don't even know if that's the price, the going rate, but that's what the problem was. And my solution was, okay, you don't have to see a therapist. There's these other options. But again, I'm not saying don't go see a therapist. I think therapists can be really helpful. And as an empowerment coach, I'm not a therapist. I will never say I am one. I'm not trained the same way. But being a coach, I know the importance of both sides of the coaching world and the therapist world. And in theory, those two worlds do, if done right, and the other person on the other side is, they can be so, I'm really stepping over my words right now. They can go hand to hand. I know people that get coached and help and get support on, the everyday life or even emotions and things like that, like where I work at, the emotional scale. And then therapists that, do the long term. Because for coaches, we're not like, we don't want to see you for 2 or 3 years. We want to help you faster than that. We just look at things differently and we're trained differently, and that's all. But we can go hand in hand together. But one that isn't the same as the other. I hope that makes sense. I really wasn't planning on talking about this as detailed. So I'm just kind of going on my own little rant here, and I apologize. But I just wanted to be very clear that episode is not like anti anything. It's, look, if you're having a hard time where maybe therapy or even coaching, one-on-one coaching is unreachable right now financially, there are other things out there you can do. You don't need to just stick your head in the sand or struggle and feel alone. There are other ways, there are other options. So that's all this episode is sharing that there are other options out there. Now, that being said, I'm sharing all the free things and my ideas. I just want to also say this. My biggest growth came when I actually invested in myself and got myself outside help. However, I've also done a lot of healing on my own. So I don't want to say it's one or another. I do a lot of my own healing. I do. But I've also reached out. Like I said, I had a therapist through a difficult time. Actually, I've had a few. Some aren't all good, but that's a different story for a different day. You have to find it's just like a coach, anybody really. You have to find somebody that you connect with and you can talk to. Because if you can't open up, you can't share, you can't talk, it's not going to be helpful because you're not talking. So anyways, again, some of my biggest growth has when I did invest in myself. Because we show up when we feel like we're invested in something. So when you pay for something, you're like, well, I better show up. I better do the work because I'm putting this money into it. But when things are free, it's a little harder to do. And when you're doing it on your own, like you're just, journaling and things like that, you now have to motivate yourself. You need to push yourself. You don't have somebody else holding you accountable. Unless you get accountability partners. So there is definitely things to do like that. And I'll talk more into that later. And just reading to make sure I got all my notes. Yes. So I'm sorry. I'm just reading all the notes. I'm like, okay, I've already said that because yeah. Anyways. Let me reiterate though. The biggest thing with these options are that you have to motivate yourself enough to be and hold yourself accountable. So that's really important with the free ones. And then it's when you're investing, when you invest in something, aka pay for it, then you are now you kind of already are holding yourself accountable because you put that money out there, and you're invested in your journey. But that doesn't mean you can't do these free things. So I wanted to share. So I've shared, the thoughts of okay, you don't have the money is not available right now. And honestly, that is so possible. And I've gone through life where, I was like, ooh, I want to do this, but not right now. So I feel like part of my life, I've really self-taught myself how to do a lot of things because the money wasn't there. But then I've also had times where I really needed to talk to somebody. So I have reached out to therapists and things like that. And then there's other times in my life where I have invested in, a coach for my business. And I've gone to retreats and, just different things like that. And so there's a time and a place that all these work. And that's what I'm trying to share here. So there's free resources, things that you can do all on your own that don't cost a lot or nothing at all. Then there are a time and a place for when you really need a therapist. And I really do feel that there's a good range out there. I know when I did some looking, it was a while ago now, probably almost a year. There was a lot of different resources out there. Unfortunately, like I said, it was a little while ago, but I knew that there's quite a bit out there. And then, there's ups and downs to both sides of things, right? Of paying for something and doing something for free. But it all comes down to is where are you right now? Financially, like I said, you need to be able to put a roof over your head and to feed yourself. So I'm going to be sharing things that you can do for you for free. And I feel like we have time. I wanted to see where it was sitting. We're at the 15-minute mark. So I wanted to share just a couple things that you can do for free. We'll do meditation and yoga because meditation, I literally have a free meditation on my website. And I actually have just started something new with my community. I send out a newsletter every month. Eventually, I'm hoping to get a letter out every week. But right now, realistically, it's every month. And it has a new feature. It's called the this month's meditation. I think that's what it's called. Anyways, I do a monthly meditation. Maybe that's what it's called, monthly meditation. And I just started doing it recently in September. And I share a meditation. Now, I usually try to keep my meditations between 5 and 10 minutes. I do have longer ones. It depends on what it's for and things like that. I have a loving kindness one that's much longer. However, it's free. As if you're a part of my community, you get it in your monthly newsletter and you just download it. No email required to download it. You're already part of the community. Click done. Also, like I said, one's on my website. So you can get a lot of free meditations, even including my own. And you can even just meditate quietly. Now, I want to share a little bit into this because I used to not be able to meditate silently without a guided meditation. I was the type of person that my brain would be going all over the place. I literally would waste 5 minutes. And I don't want to really say waste because I'm sure something was happening. But I was constantly thinking of my next steps or, my to-dos for the day. So I actually like a guided meditation. However, ever since getting into yoga teacher training, taking the course for that, I've learned to go inward a little bit more and actually go silently. And I've actually done an episode here, I believe this past year, and I think it was called Going Within. And it was a meditation walking you through a silent meditation. So I even do that. But it's really just finding a focal point. And it can be just as simple as your breathing. And when you inhale, say let, to yourself. And then when you exhale, go. And you just continue doing that. And I set a timer so I don't lose a half an hour. You set the time that you want. And I make sure that my timer, when it goes off, is this really chill melody. Because I don't want to take my beautiful energy that I'm meditating in calmness and then have a jerk, have a bing, very loud dinging or whatever it is. So I just have a nice calming chime after come in. And that is how it works. And meditation, you can do it any time of the day, as long as you're not driving. That's right. I wanted to talk about this too. So there's different ways of meditation and meditating. There's walking meditations. I love that, where you just walk and you're just letting your mind kind of wander, or you're looking at the tree, you're just taking things in, just being mindful of the moments. I have some of my best creative thoughts while walking, doing a meditative walk. And it's so beautiful. So guided meditations, just silent sitting meditations, or laying down. I personally like to sit because I feel like if I'm going to lay down, I may fall asleep. So guided, silent, walking meditation. And like I said, there's so many guided meditations out there. And those are just a few. There are so many more. There's ones where you can do mantras in them, or om, so many different things. I feel like I've done an episode all on meditations too, and I don't know what it's called though, unfortunately. But know that there's lots of resources. Now I want to wrap it up with one more thing. I know we're getting close to the 20-minute mark now, and I try to keep mine episodes fairly reasonable depending on the topic and where I'm at. Anyways, so yoga. And like I've mentioned earlier in this episode, is that yoga, what I thought of yoga is different. And if you want to know what that is, check that out on a different episode about what I thought of yoga was wrong. However, practicing yoga, the asanas, the yoga asanas, so all the postures, is what I'm talking about when I say yoga here. Is, getting on your mat. And all you need is really, like, I like a mat, but sometimes I'm going to be honest here. Sometimes I'm lazy, or sometimes my cat's in my bedroom where I do my yoga practice, and he's destroyed my mat a few times. So I don't even put a mat down. I'll just go on my hardwood floor. Now, it's a little slipperier if you're sweaty palms and stuff like that. But sometimes I'm like, if I'm not going to get on there because I don't want to get my mat out of my closet, and try and keep it simple so you don't have to worry. But like my mat's like a solid, thick one. Anyways, there's times where I'm like, oh, I could do it, but then I have to get it out and then I have to wipe it down after. So if that's my excuse, then I'm just like, let's just hit the floor. Let's do it. Or I'll be like, I'll just do one sun salutation, just one or two. And then all of a sudden I do my whole practice. And then I don't have a mat because I was only going to do one sun salutation. So it's, it's figuring it out, right? Anyways, there are free resources here too. I'm hoping to offer those down the line as well. I'm just figuring out how to line up the camera and do it so it's flattering and like so you can see it properly. Like I haven't figured out the angles personally yet and things like that. But I do. It's in my idea of somewhere down the line I like to offer. But there's one that I have literally watched her since my oldest was born. So like in 2013, I discovered her because my naturopath is like, hey, check her out. And that's Yoga with Adrienne. She has so much free content. And then if you want to dive deeper, she does have a membership as well. But most of her stuff is free, all on YouTube. And she even has it divided into like 5 to 10 minutes, 15. Like you can pick how long. And that for honestly has been what I was doing for the longest time. I sit down and be like, okay, I have 5 minutes. Let's do it. Or I have 10, 15 or 20. And so it's all on YouTube. And like I said, so much free content. So as this episode is about free stuff and, your personal development via free, that is a really amazing resource. I find she is so funny and it's just exactly what I needed when I was trying to figure out how to get yoga back into my life after becoming a mom. Because I would go to a yoga studio and then being a mom, I was like, I didn't want to leave the house to go to yoga, a yoga studio. Like I was just like, if I'm going to get out of the house, like I'm going to go and meet up with a friend or, do something else. Like that was not what I wanted to do after becoming a mom. But I love yoga and I was trying to figure out how to get that back in. So that's where I came in. So really, really good resource. There's other ones too. Like, so if you don't love Adrienne, because we all have different likes. I met so many that do know her or follow her on YouTube and things like that. But if that's not your style, if that's not your personality, or you just, it just doesn't feel right to you, or you need longer stuff, there is so much stuff on YouTube. You just need to go searching for it. So if you have a certain type of yoga that you like, search for that. And down the line, I will be offering Ashtanga yoga, and I'm really excited about that. That's the 8 limbs of yoga. So I will be doing asanas and all the other stuff that goes with it as well down the line. But right now, I can point you in different directions because they have helped me so much. And I'm unfortunately not at that place yet to offer those moments yet, but I'm looking forward to it. I had a project that I really wanted to do and I was going to jump on it. And then I realized that I wanted to do it properly. I have these ideas and I always want to do all the ideas right now, realizing that I already have 10 ideas in the works, right? Well, maybe not 10, but I have quite a few. So I have to learn to slow my roll and take it one step at a time. And even though I want to put something out, I need to take the steps and the time to do so instead of rushing, because that's usually my MO. Oh, I have this idea. How can I do it like now? And sometimes that works for me, and sometimes that just leaves me exhausted, and then I don't get anything done. So I am learning to embrace it, slowly instead of like jumping all head first in and then not getting anything done. Anyways, so those are two things that you can do. And I am going to end this here right now. And the next episode, I'm going to dive into more things because we're at just over 25 minutes. So I want to end this here, and I'm going to go into one more episode going with all the free goodies that you can do. And remember, it's about getting to know yourself better, right? Healing things, changing beliefs, or learning and discovering ones that aren't, serving you anymore. So it really comes down to slowing down. And that's why I love yoga and meditation so much, is that they just help me stay grounded and then open up space in my mind and my heart to get to know myself better. Thank you so much for being here. Stay tuned to next week while we dive even deeper into this beautiful, beautiful world of free healing, personal development, self-discovery, bliss. Thank you so much for being here. I am so grateful for you. Take care and have a beautiful, beautiful day. Bye for now. Hello, it's Jody again. I'm just back quickly for a quick announcement. I have decided to do an Ask Me Anything podcast episode. So come join the conversation on loving me, myself, and life. Now, it's not going to be live. However, I am going to gather questions ahead of time and answer them for you. So if you have a question about self-love, personal growth, or just life in general, or maybe even have a personal question for me, this is your chance to deep dive into topics that matter to you. Seek advice or explore challenges that resonate with your personal experiences. So get something really, something right directed to you. I'm not going to share full names or locations or anything. I'm going to keep it all, so no one knows who you are, but you'll know who you are. And over the next month or so starting October 13th till November 30th, I will be gathering questions. Now, if you find this after November 30th, that's okay. Please send me your questions anyways, because if I get too many, I'll have to do this again. Not have to, but I want to. So send me your questions if you're like, oh man, I wish Jody would talk about this, or I wish I could hear about this. Please send me your questions because I want to do something for you. So please send me your questions today, and let's explore the beauty of loving yourself and living authentically and creating a life you truly desire. So you just can go onto my website, jodymisiak.com, and go under contact and just fill out the form with your question. There'll be a link also with this description of this podcast episode. So please send away. I look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day. Bye for now.